Morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Thank you for joining us this morning. Really excited to be here today at this amazing event. My name is Ellie Thieker, and I'm an Enterprise Account Executive at Multiverse. So my role is to lead on our most major and strategic partnerships across the organization. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about how we've supported Fujitsu to fuel the data skills transformation initiative over the past couple of years. Sinead, great to have you here today. Really looking forward to getting into this together. Can we start off with a bit about your role at Fujitsu and your strategic priorities?
Yeah, morning Ellie. Morning everyone. My name's Sinead Graff and I head up colleague experience in digital, data and cloud in our UK Fujitsu organisation. Colleague experience, what a great role it is. We all know that people are one of our biggest assets in our organisations, and my role is to ensure that the people that are in digital, data and cloud have the experience that's promised to them right from the beginning, before we've hired them, during their time in Fujitsu and beyond. So one of the most important things as part of that role is making sure there's a culture, a really, really good culture and a desire and an ability for our people to learn and grow. Put really, really simply, the skills that people come into their careers with are not enough to get them through to retirement. We need to ensure that our people are constantly unlearning and then relearning those new skills that they need in this world that we live in today. So I have a fantastic job in terms of balancing, making sure our people do interesting and exciting work for our customers, but also get that opportunity to learn and develop themselves. And that's a struggle, trying to make sure that people want to do that, and then also have the time to do that. So that's a little bit about my role and what I do. Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, Sinead, and I completely agree, and I love this concept of individuals no longer kind of being able to stand still in their skill development, so recognizing that the skills that you have when you enter the workplace are not necessarily going to be the skills that you need to continue your career throughout the entire kind of lifetime. Would you be able to share a bit more context on DDaC, Sinead, and help us understand what it is you're doing and your position in the market on that?
Yes, I'm not a massive fan of acronyms, so I always then repeat them back out. So digital, data and cloud, why did we create it? And why did we need to when Fujitsu already has world-class innovation and a delivery mechanism? Well, the reason why we created it was we were asked to by our partners and by our customers, because the technology industry, as many of you may well know, are experiencing negative effects of low productivity and finding it really hard to get products to market really quickly. So our customers needed us to help them to do this. And one of the ways of doing this, or three ways of doing that, is all around innovation, skills and technology. And we recognise within DDaC that we're in a great place to be able to deliver that for our customers. Now, that's all very well and good, but in order to be able to provide those right skills, we needed to address that technical skills gap that we had in our organisation, as in other organisations have as well. So the way that we've done that is by working with Multiverse, and we have created that a partnership, I guess, isn't it? That we, through the Data Academy, has enabled us to be able to skill up our people so that they are able to help our customers with that big problem that we've all facing, which is that skills gap in the marketplace. So, Ellie, maybe you can tell this lot how we've done it.
Fab, thank you. I mean, first of all, what do we mean by Data Academy? I'm sure you've heard of Data Academies before. You may even have one in your organisation at the moment. What we're referring to here is a concept of developing an internal upskill program that really supports the organisation to invest in the existing workforce, to build out those critical skills that are needed to deliver both internally but also externally, in Fujitsu's case, for their clients. When we start the academy, when we work with our clients, and like we did with Fujitsu, we really want to define what will success look like. What are we trying to achieve through this academy? Why are you going to upskill your people, and what is that going to do for your business? In Fujitsu's case, if we go right back to the start of the partnership a few years back, there were three key drivers that we were really looking to focus on. The first one was this concept of data-enabled decision-making. So recognizing that data is everywhere in the organization and there's lots of it. So how can we empower colleagues to actually think about that data to drive action and decisions in their role, no matter what role that is? The second key driver was really around efficiency. So recognizing that lots and lots of people are working with data, how can we streamline the way that they're actually working with that information to support them to become more efficient in their role? So increasing productivity and in turn increasing job satisfaction, because I'm sure we've all been there where we're sat trying to do something in Excel or trying to visualize some information to have a really empowering conversation with stakeholders, and we're wasting time because we just can't get to the goal that we're trying to do. Maybe going on Google, YouTube, trying to self-serve and understand how to do something. So that efficiency point was really, really key. The final part of it was very much on what Sinead's been saying already, which is this concept of investing in people. So recognizing in the market, there's always this concept of a war for talent when it comes to data skills. So how could we actually invest in the existing workforce to make them feel empowered and really excited by the concept of being developed so that they would want to stay within Fujitsu and actually think about their longer term career within that organization. So people are at the heart of kind of the transformation. It came down to selecting the right people for the right program, and what Sinead will talk through in a moment is kind of how we started with an early adopters group. But really it came down to how are we going to track this success? How will we know that this academy is going to work, and how will we be able to look back and say, what have we achieved? And that comes back to kind of working with the leaders across Fujitsu to understand what is that go-to-market strategy, what is the organization trying to do, and how will these newfound skills internally enable them to achieve those goals? Since then, we have been tracking success, and I'm really, really proud of what we've achieved. On average, the individuals that have been through the data upskilling program have saved half a day a week. So whilst it's been an investment of their time to go through the learning, they've already got that time back. So they've really streamlined that approach and been able to work more efficiently. We've also seen some great benefits for Fujitsu's clients. So examples where Fujitsu have extremely pleased their clients by doing things in a different way where they couldn't previously do that. So clients are becoming more and more demanding, asking for more information on the services that are being delivered to them. They want to know how that service is performing, which often puts a lot of pressure on the service provider to be able to get that information to them. By creating brilliant dashboards and real-time results, the teams have been able to really improve that colleague and client experience internally and externally. But what I would say is that there has to be a tipping point here. When we think about transforming a workforce, it can't be 3 people, 5 people, 10 people. You have to get a critical mass in order to actually drive these results, which I would say Fujitsu has been brilliant at really getting to that critical tipping point. When we talk about that, there's a lot of studies out there. One I particularly like to reference is McKinsey, who says that actually if you upskill less than 7% of your workforce, it has a detrimental impact to what you're trying to achieve. And what we mean by that is ultimately creating small pockets of people that know how to do stuff, and then inadvertently creating sub-teams and silos, and increasing that divide between individuals that can work with data and individuals that can't. So that's been something that's been really, really important to the Academy as well. Sinead, building on the impact that I've just kind of talked through there, what do you and the team have envisioned for kind of the next phase of the Data Academy?
I'm going to annoy you now and go a little bit off script, because I just want to go back to a point you made about the service reports. So prior to doing this role, I worked in our delivery function as a program manager and spent a lot of time in service review meetings. And what we used to do was present data to our customers about how our performance was, and that kind of was it. You just presented the pretty graphs and the pretty pictures and said, this is what it is. Now, the expectation our clients have is that we actually truly understand that data and what is it telling, the so what factor. So it's no use just being able to present to the client, you actually now need to understand it. So to me, that's a real life difference that we've seen, and we need to enable our colleagues to be able to do that. Because if they can't do that, then they can't, the client response is just, you just don't understand your data, you don't understand what you're reporting to us. So sorry, I'll now go back to answering your question. So, as Ellie said, when we started with the Data Academy, we started with people that had data in their jobs, in their job title. They were handling data day in, day out. It was a large part of their role. And what we've discovered, actually, is when we've looked at our own data in our organisation, what we need to do now is actually go back and actually give core data literacy skills to a wider group of people. So this isn't about the advanced data academy courses that this is much more about the core data literacy. So we've slightly changed the way we've done things, and we're hopeful that's going to work for us, and I'm sure it will, because it gets to that stats that you were saying in terms of McKinsey and the 7%, because actually this will enable a lot more people to have those data literacy skills, because it doesn't really matter what role you do now, you are going to need to be data literate. And that always reminds me of the example that, you know, when my parents were starting their careers and starting off, and you'd have special people who used computers. You know, nobody had very few people had computer literate skills. And now everybody knows how to use a computer, everybody knows how to use the technology around them. And I think that's where we're going with data. I think that's where we're going to need to make sure that we've upskilled our people so they really understand data and therefore can use it to service themselves and their customers.
100% agree, and I think that point around data being everybody's responsibility, what we find more and more in the conversations we're having with clients is actually data is everywhere. You know, whether you're in a HR role to a marketing role, through to a finance role, you know, data is a large component of individuals' work day in, day out. And so it's how can we start to think about upskilling that particular group of individuals. You know, we've already focused on the data experts in the business to make them have the advanced data skills, but actually this needs to be much wider now. I just want to touch on the fact that, you know, I've talked about an academy and I've talked about what we mean by upskilling, but a key part of what we do and what we've been doing through this partnership is actually utilising the apprenticeship levy to fund this programme and actually utilise that existing levy pot that is out there, which means there's no commercial investment for organisations to start to think about upskilling their teams. Sinead, taking a step back, I know you're a huge advocate of apprenticeships and the value that they bring, but I know there's many misconceptions still in the market at the moment as to what an apprenticeship is, how can it work, what does it mean? Do you want to shed a bit of kind of light on that and what your exposure has been to it?
Yeah, I think sometimes the problem with talking about apprenticeships is you're talking about the how, and as Simon Sinek would always say, you need to start with the why. So if we actually go right back up to the top and start with that why, is, well, why do we need to do something different? And that comes down, and there's so many stats out there in the marketplace, but this particular survey done by Hayes, referenced in Computer Weekly, talked about anywhere from 95% of employers down to 68% needing to, they were struggling to seek the right talent for their organisation. And then we had 80% of people that were actively recruiting and offering roles, but they're having to pay more for those people. So there's the problem. The problem is we don't have the skills in the marketplace for the people that we need to service our customers. So, and I would go one step further. We don't have the right people to provide the benefits to our society that digital transformation will bring. So how do you solve a problem like that? So we believed in Fujitsu, we did have the people, the right kind of people. They know our culture, they know our customers, they know our way of working, they're already embedded in our organisation, and they want to be part of our organisation. I'm sure many of you guys out there have the same kind of people working for your organisation. What they didn't have were the right skills. So we focused on providing them with the skills that they needed to enable us to deliver the solutions that we needed for our customer. So you talked there about that the tipping point and getting to that early adopter. So when we looked at the Data Academy, we did look at people who had data in their titles, and they provided that early adopters because it was kind of an easy sell for them. They already had data, they already believed in data, they already knew that they needed it, so that could provide that early group and then help us to provide that tipping point. I think now that everybody's making that adjustment toward data being everybody's job, I think that's where we'll be more successful now with that sort of more core data literacy skills. But to me, apprenticeships and coming down to the how, to me, they're a win-win-win. So they're a win for a colleague, right? So that means they get an opportunity to learn and develop, they get an opportunity to apply their learning. So for any learning and development HR professionals in the audience, you'll have all heard of the 70-20-10 model. And this model is all around the 10% of learning that takes place in the classroom, 20% is around the coaching and the supporting and the mentoring, and the 70% is about applying what you've learned. So if it's about ticking boxes and getting certificates. Send your people on a 1-week course and they'll leave with a certificate at the end of it. If it's actually about enabling that colleague to be able to put into practice the skills they've learned, apprenticeships are the way to go, in my opinion. So it's an absolute win for a colleague, okay? But it's also a win for the organisation. Ellie's mentioned the apprenticeship levy fund and the fact there's no commercial outlay for an organisation, so that's a win for the organisation. And then that final win, to me, is around the societal impact that we can have, because if we're trying to make the world a more sustainable place, we need to invest in the people we already have in there, and we need to grow their skills. And to me, that's how we do that, and we do that through the apprenticeships.
I love that, and I think just to add to that, there is a stigma around apprenticeships. Historically, it's been apprenticeships are for career starters, you know, they're potentially for individuals in more practical industries. Whereas what we're talking about here is utilizing that concept of learning a new skill, being coached on how to apply that skill, and then putting that skill straight into practice and repeating that process over a couple of months, building up throughout the program, so that you really develop those core critical skills that you need in order to change the way that you're working, and actually change the way that the teams around you are working as well. Because what we found more and more is going on a half-a-day Excel course or going on a half-a-day Power BI course is not enough to actually fundamentally shift that mindset into thinking about the concept of data and how it can empower you to make those decisions. The apprenticeship model, therefore, is you know, a fantastic way of doing it, but I would challenge everybody in this room to start to use the word apprenticeships in the conversations that you have and talk about it in a different way, so that, you know, we start to create even a bigger movement in society around what it means to be already in the workplace and developing those critical skills in order to support you to thrive. Also just wanted to touch on what you're saying about the win-win-win. When we think about engagement in an organisation, a lot of the time, if you're talking to people that are not in a data role, they don't necessarily recognise themselves as somebody that potentially even uses data. And so when we work with organisations like we have done with Fujitsu, that engagement piece is really critical. We need to think about what that engagement looks like, from the individual that could potentially be doing the upskilling, to the manager that's going to support that individual to gain those new skills, right through to the leadership, and how does this align to the strategy of what the organisation is going to achieve. Because only then will we get a really successful data academy like we have done in Fujitsu, where you've got individuals motivated and excited to want to go through the program, but also it's aligned right back to the core leadership pillars of what that organisation is trying to achieve. Sinead, I know DDaC's going to be continuing to invest in its people and seeing apprenticeships as a brilliant way to achieve this. Can you talk us through in a bit more detail on why and what benefits you're seeing and what impact you've seen that you didn't necessarily anticipate originally?
Yeah, of course. So I think we've probably seen 4 benefits. So 4 areas. So the first one is around our engagement and the motivation we've been able to give to our colleagues. So we're really fortunate in our organisation to have a bunch of colleagues that have been with the company quite a while. But as anyone knows, trying to keep people motivated and keep people wanting to continue to work for your organisation, this can be hard. And this is one way we've been able to do that, is by offering something else to them, offering them the opportunity to learn and grow their own personal toolbox of skills. So that enables and drives that engagement. It makes them a happy colleague, and you would expect me in the role that I'm in to say a happy colleague will equal a happy customer and equal a happy organisation. But if you start with a colleague, then you'll get there. So that's definitely one big benefit we've seen. The second benefit is really important to me, and it's all around diversity. So if we've got colleagues working on a closed cohort, which is basically all the people work within Fujitsu, then they will get to meet other people within the business. If it's an open cohort, then they work with people in other industries. And is that me? I'm making that noise. If it's either of those situations, they get to work with different kinds of people. And that enables them to have that diversity of thinking and a diversity of way of doing things, which helps their creativity and innovation. And it breaks down some of those silos. So that's another benefit we've seen, is trying to join different areas of our business up and enabling our colleagues to meet other people outside of just Fujitsu. So you mentioned earlier about the productivity. We've absolutely seen that people have been able to put into practice the skills that they've learnt and been able to apply that. After all, a part of the apprenticeship is demonstrating that you put into practice those skills. So there's a win-win for the colleague there while they're doing it as part of their apprenticeship. They're also practicing those skills, and then the organisation gets those benefits. And the other great thing about it is you don't wait until the end of it. So if it's a year apprenticeship, for example, it's not, you don't get the benefit then, you get the benefit right all the way through, that you're getting that productivity, that the person is being quicker. And again, there is that knock-on effect that they have on their colleagues around them. So, oh, by the way, I now do it like this because I now understand this. How about you doing that? Oh, where did you learn those skills? I learned it from here. So we've seen that benefit as well. And then for anybody who has to deal with any CFO, or anybody around the numbers, the couple of benefits we saw around this were really specific. So we were able to get rid of some systems, and we were able to get rid of some extra data stores, which actually reduced down our cost of operating. And we were also able to not hire somebody, because somebody in the existing team, we were able to upskill and they were able to do that role. So those are the kinds of things our CFO and our numbers people love, because they're real. I personally like the other three, but I'm in colleague engagement, so that's my role. So yeah, there are benefits we've seen.
I love that, and just to finish on that, I guess when we talk about tracking benefits, throughout the entire partnership, we're constantly looking at the metrics. So we're looking at how confident the people going through the program feel to share their skills. We're tracking examples around, what cost reductions have the organization seen, systems that potentially are no longer needed because individuals are now doing things differently. There's lots of benefits that are arguably difficult to predict that are going to come out of it, but once we launch the partnership, we track it very, very closely so that we can really document that ROI against the time taken to go through the program. Just to finish us off then, Sinead, if the audience had one thing to take away from today's chat, what would it be? What do you want them to go away thinking about?
Well, I don't know whether you've heard it elsewhere in the short time you've been here already this morning, but data is everybody's job, right? So we are going to need to ensure that our colleagues, our population as a whole, understand the role that data will play in their career and in society as large. So yeah, it's not just about those people with data in their title, it's going to become all of our problem and all of our concern and all of our opportunity. So yeah, that's what I would end on.
Thank you so much, Sinead, for taking part today in this. And for anybody that's really excited and motivated after hearing what we've talked through with the story at Fujitsu, we have a stand straight outside the auditorium here, so feel free to come along and have a conversation and see how we can repeat some of this great benefit in your own organizations.